चेक कर। फुल स्क्रीन किधर है? फुल स्क्रीन
Are we live?
Yeah, I think we are. Just a second. Yes, we are. I think I'll wait for a few more minutes before people join in, and then we'll start. Yeah. That's okay. I was changing screens, so it will come. But now it's fine. Are people there on YouTube? Yeah. Gone live on YouTube? 22 people. Okay, great. So good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this webinar on the Sunday evening, leaving aside the IPL match between KKR and RR. Thanks, Rakshit, as well for joining us. I know your favorite team is not doing well, but that's all right. I think there have been a lot of surprises during the IPL this time. So I'm Anup, and I have with me Rakshit Daga, who is presently the Vice President and CTO at BigBasket. And I do not need to tell our audience from India about BigBasket, but for those who are joining in from the other parts of the world, BigBasket is India's largest online grocer. Personally, BigBasket has been a savior for me during the lockdown, during the COVID times. I'm sure it has been very, very interesting times at BigBasket as well. And the interesting bit about BigBasket is that they keep their own inventory, and they procure directly from the farmers and they deliver directly to the customers, which also means that they have a lot of interesting technology problems to solve, from perishable inventory management to delivery route optimizations to fleet management, building a web and app platforms that can scale to the tune of delivering to Indian customers, and fraud detection. Lots of technology challenges. I'm sure Rakshit will have a lot more to say about what they do at BigBasket. They're also hiring very, very smart engineers and technologists, something that the audience and the learners will be very, very interested in. CodeChef caters to the community of very smart engineers out there and aspiring engineers. So welcome, Rakshit. Thank you for accepting to be a part of this Conversations with CodeChef series. Also, Rakshit, just to give you a little bit of context, CodeChef is a competitive programming platform which was started in 2009 with a vision to make Indian programmers better problem solvers. We recently got acquired by an academy, and in collaboration with them, we have also launched various initiatives like Learn Competitive Programming and CodeChef Conversations with CodeChef is our endeavor to interact with the community, to make the industry leaders interact with the community, and also give insights into what goes into solving real world challenging problems. The CodeChef community primarily comprises of students who are learning computer science, computer programming, and young professionals as well, who want to do better at seeking a tech job. So the questions that we will face today will be also a lot career focused in terms of what they can expect in a big organization like BigBasket. The format of this session for the audience will be that in the first half we will let Rakshit answer some of the questions which we have picked up from the ones that you have sent us. And in between, you can also ask questions on the Unacademy platform. This is also being streamed on live on YouTube, so you can also post your questions there. We will try and answer as many as we can from the chats. So please feel free to ask questions. Okay, people are probably complaining about the background noise, but is there a way, Rakshit, probably what we need to do is when I am talking, probably you can mute yourself. When you are talking, I can mute myself, so that way probably we can reduce the noise. So there is a button on the top probably which says mute. Yeah, I think that should be better. This is some real-time feedback that we got. So please feel free to ask your questions in the chat, and even during the session, we'll be happy to take up questions. I also have a bunch of people supporting me to make this webinar live. We have Akhil, Vinita, Mudit, and Shitali and Tojo, who have been working to make this possible live. So whenever something goes wrong, they will be helping us while we are here. So I think with that introduction, Rakshit, I will probably now open it up to the questions. So Rakshit, from a mechanical engineering student at the Maharaja Shiaji Rao University at Baroda to the CTO of Big Basket, it has been an inspiring journey because not a lot of people from a mechanical engineering background get to achieve what you have. And I'm sure there is a long way for you to go ahead as well, right? A lot of students aspire to achieve what you've already done. Now, is this something that you had envisioned when you started out, or what was it like? Can we go back in time and try and
Sure. So thanks a lot, Anup, for the introduction. It's great to be here, and look forward to interacting with everybody who's signed up for the show, and share whatever my learnings have been. As far as my journey is concerned, I actually grew up in a small town called Bhavnagar, and luckily or unluckily, I have some sort of an aptitude for math. So that's kind of been my sort of problem solving aptitude that I kind of have used in my career journey. After I finished my 12th grade, I actually could have gone for computer science, and in retrospect, I should have probably done that. But at that point in time, the awareness of somebody who had gone to school in Bhavnagar was pretty low. So I chose mechanical engineering because it was the so-called safe branch, and you'd easily get a job and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But quickly. So I joined mechanical engineering at Baroda. Had a lot of fun for the 4 years that we were there. Pretty much decided that I wanted to do an MS. So like most engineering students, I had to between whether I want to do an MBA or do an MS. I applied for the CAT. Actually got an opportunity to join IIMs. I almost made up my mind to join IIMs, but at the last minute I decided to go to the US and do an MS. And as soon as I reached the US and I joined grad school, I quickly found out that computing and computer programming is an intricate part of any line of work. Even in mechanical engineering, you really had to understand programming. You had to understand how to write code and so on. So this was something that I wasn't exposed to too much during my undergrad time or during my schooling time. But luckily, my mathematical background kind of helped in this journey, and I was able to pick up some of these things very quickly. And at the University of Minnesota, which is where I went, and I was a research assistant as well as a teaching assistant, figured out that coding and software programming is something that I really, really enjoy. And I actually spent considerable time on my own trying to figure out, got exposed to a lot of the computational stuff that was happening at that point in time. And that's where at the University of Minnesota, I decided that I wanted to do a minor in computer science. So in addition to taking graduate level courses in mechanical engineering, I started taking some undergrad courses that exposed me to computer science. So I finally graduated with a MS in mechanical engineering and a minor in computer science. After graduation, I had a choice again whether to go in for mechanical engineering jobs or go in for computer science jobs. The time when I graduated it was the .com boom. So I graduated. I finished my MS in 2000, And that's the point where California was booming big time. There was a frenzy of hiring any kind of technical talent. People were willing to teach people who were not majored in computer science and so on. So I found a job in the Silicon Valley area with a company called Cyient. That was actually my first training on the job. I spent about a year with them. And then I joined a startup, and that's probably the most important career decision that I've taken in retrospect. I actually had a job offer from Oracle, which was also in the Bay Area. And I had a job offer from a startup where there were just 4 people who had founded the company. And I was going to be the first employer. So I made a choice to join the startup, call it dreams of getting rich very quickly. But I chose to join the startup, and retrospectively, I think that was one of the most important decisions that I made because we got to build an enterprise product from scratch. I got to learn all about coding, all about building a product, setting up infrastructure. I spent around 5 years at the startup, joined as a software engineer, ended up as an architect at the startup, helped in hiring, helped in sales, built a large part of the enterprise platform. So all in all, retrospectively, that's been the single biggest learning experience as far as getting exposed to computer science and software is concerned. After the startup, I joined SAP, also in a very interesting role. I joined as part of a team called the Corporate Strategy Group. Mm-hmm. SAP was discovered the idea of design thinking, and what they were trying to do is invest a lot of effort into setting up design thinking as one of the primary principles of software development across the company. Mm-hmm. So this is all in California and Palo Alto. So I joined the Corporate Strategy Group as a tech evangelist. I spent 3 years building forward-looking prototypes. If you guys know about SAP, SAP is the largest enterprise app company in the world. It's known for very complex software, which is very stable, which runs a lot of giant corporations across the world. One thing it is not known for is speed to execution and speed to market, right? Mm-hmm. So the team that I was a part of, we were trying to change that.
Yeah.
To market very, very quickly. And I'm probably taking a long time to answer your question. So I spent about 8 years in various roles in.
Please go on, yeah.
Sure. So I spent 8 years at SAP in various roles across 3 teams primarily. My last role at SAP was this group called the App House. The idea really was how do we actually make small applications on top of the SAP infrastructure and release them to market quickly. Mm-hmm. So as part of this group, which was started in Palo Alto, I got the opportunity to move to India. Mm-hmm. We wanted to start an equivalent app house in Bangalore. And in fact, throughout my career, I had never worked in India. Right after undergrad, I had gone off to the US. So I thought it might be a good opportunity to see how India is there. And really, the goal was that I'll come to India for a year and a half and set up the app in Bangalore, hire a few people, and once it gets running, the idea was that I would go back to Palo Alto and continue living in the US. But when I came to India, I set up the team, I set up App House, hired a few great folks, made a few great friends, started enjoying life in India. And the startup ecosystem was also kind of taking off in India at that point. I'm talking about 2011 is when I came. Mm-hmm. So 2013 is where I had to make a decision whether I go back or continue to stay in India. Mm-hmm. So meanwhile, another friend of mine who was with me at grad school at the University of Minnesota had also moved to India. He was working at Yahoo. And I'd always flirted with the idea of starting my own company. We were also
Rakshit, sorry,
jobs.
Yeah. Sometimes your voice is breaking.
Hello.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me? Or is
Yes.
this it's still breaking?
Now it's okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I was just saying, after SAP, I decided to stay back in India, started a company along with a friend of mine. We decided that we would build enterprise applications and try and sell those. So we kind of started small with the two of us, put in some of our own money, actually got some clients, and were able to grow the company to about 14 people, 15 people. And then ultimately, there were a few learnings. Maybe I'll cover those during the course of our session. After before the company, I joined BigBasket. That's kind of the journey. I joined as the head of engineering at BigBasket. Meanwhile, the existing CTO decided to move on, and so I ended up in this role. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah. That's a very exciting things. A lot of things that I could pick up from there. The first thing that you mentioned, it's very interesting, was you being your mathematics background helped you a lot in coding, in learning coding. That's something that you highlighted, right? A lot of
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I think that's really been the journey. I think my interest in solving problems, my interest in I was actually also part of the National Math Olympiad and was part of the shortlist for the International Math Olympiad team while I was in high school. So some of those things actually shaped up my journey in, for example, taking or shaped up my love for algorithms and data structures and things like that, right? And some of these things ended up coming naturally to me, even though my undergrad was in mechanical engineering, where I wasn't exposed to many of the core concepts. So unlike a classically trained computer scientist, I picked up a lot of these things on my job. Right, I have taken a few computer science courses, but most of what I have learned has been through the journey of working for these incredible companies throughout my career.
Yeah, so that's very interesting when you mentioned, right? For a lot of our learners, I think it's a key takeaway that even if you do not come from a core computer science background, a good understanding of mathematics and then helps you a lot in terms of understanding data structures algorithms, as Rakshit pointed out. So that's a very interesting thing. Now coming to your whole journney, right? From a startup to SAP, extremely different companies, extremely different environments, right? How did you take it? Because I'm assuming it's a very different way in which a startup operated and probably a SAP operated.
Right. And I think both of these journeys have shaped me, right, in multiple ways. Like I said, the journey at the startup, a couple of startups, and in fact, BigBasket is also a startup. I would still consider it as a startup.
Yes.
Right. So I've worked with extremely small startups, and that's where I think your richest learning comes from. Because pretty much doing everything from scratch, right? You are setting up your repository, trying to figure out hardware, trying to actually look at network connectivity. You're trying to sell to customers. You're trying to solve problems from scratch. So, a startup, working at a startup, writing an application or building an application from scratch actually shapes you into a thinker, helps you solve all kinds of different problems, exposes you to different areas that you may or may not be exposed to in larger companies. So that was the startup part of my journey. At a company like SAP, I think you get exposed to a different way of working, right? You are working with a large number of people instead of working with in a group of 7 to 10 people. You're interacting with hundreds of people across the globe. Right? You're trying to of the 20,000 developers or 50,000 people that are in the company, the same problem has not been solved before. You're finding what has been done before in the company itself is a journey, right? So, and then you also become more aware of how important it is to build software in a well thought out process. You become very observant of things like what is okay to use in an open source world, what are the formal ways of releasing software, and so on and so forth. So it's a very complementary journey, and I've actually been quite lucky to be exposed to both sides of this spectrum. And these are some of the experiences that I've used even at BigBasket, where when I joined, the team was fairly small, and from a 50% team to about the 200%. How do we actually make the jump from a small startup or mid-sized startup forming an organization where processes become important when you actually have a large number of people working in a team? How do you make sure that there is a lot of optimization in terms of how work is done, right? So I think both different journeys, like you rightly pointed out, but both been quite enriching for me.
But you only mentioned the positives, right? I'm sure when you move from startup to a SAP, there would be some negatives as well, right? You must have found it difficult also to do certain things.
Yeah, so I think there's no ideal company or no ideal role. There are positives and negatives both in the startup as well as SAP. Yeah. I think some of the things that could be construed as negative company, which is the size of SAP, is the speed of execution, right? You really have to go through a number of processes. You have to be formally vetted at multiple levels and make sure that the software you release has gone through approvals at multiple levels and so on. Mm-hmm. So inherently, working for a larger company, a much larger company, slows you down a little bit. The flip side of this is typically in a startup, the resources that are available to you are slightly less. Right? At a company like SAP, you usually have a lot of money, a lot of resources. So there is always a trade-off. And yeah, I mean, no absolutely positive journey. So I think based on what is or what opportunity you get, it's worth exploring both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah. And Rakshit, so from, you said you have multiple transitions, right? Also, before that, let me just tell the audience that there is probably some voice issues happening there, and maybe some internet issues. So please bear with us. We are trying to deal with. Maybe I'll repeat some of the things which are not clear because Rakshit's internet is probably slightly flaky. But yeah, Rakshit, coming back to it, right? So, what made you take those decisions, right? Of coming back to India and then staying here, or even joining a startup. You said Oracle made you an offer and you did not take it, and then took a startup, right? Were those consciously made decisions, or was it a gamble that you were taking at that point in time? What was the thought behind you? Because a lot of students in their colleges have the similar kind of a doubt, right? Whether they should go for a startup or whether they should go for a big company, or it's a dilemma for a lot of students, right? So, but you took the gamble there. What would you recommend people?
So, I think some of these decisions that I've made have been made because of my inherent impulsive personality. Mm-hmm. I would be lying if I told you that I thought through this very carefully. Mm-hmm. Right? It's just the promise and potential of what a startup offered actually kind of helped me make up my mind on whether to choose Oracle or whether to join the startup. Mm-hmm. Right? I knew somewhere at the back of my mind, I knew that if I joined Oracle, I would be a small cog in a big wheel, right? So, which which is different from what I wanted. I wanted to play an important role in shaping a company's journey and destiny. So maybe that was the thought that prompted me to actually make some of these decisions. Right?
Yeah, I think people are still finding it slightly hard to hear from for the background noise. Is there a noise? Something can be done. If students, are you finding it difficult from our side? No noise, right? Okay, fine. So
Is there noise from my side?
there was at some point in time. I think not now. It's not there. Yeah, it's just that it gets stuck somewhere. But we'll continue and we'll see what we can do best here. So
Sure.
Rakshit, you're now you took us through your journey, right? You're already the CTO of Big Basket. You're solving a lot of interesting problems, I'm sure. What next? Have you decided? Do you have a goal like after 5 years or after 10 years? This is what you want to do. Do you want anything in your mind?
So for now, actually, quite focused on BigBasket. I think BigBasket still has a lot of interesting days ahead of it. I think as far as the online grocery space is concerned, there's a lot of room to grow, and it's kind of we're in a very interesting part of the journey. Maybe 5-10 years down the road, I would potentially like to start a company again, but.
Oh, wow.
To be honest, I haven't still completely thought through that.
Okay.
But for now, I think BigBasket is giving me a good mix of the startup world as well as setting up an organization which is actually primed for growth.
Okay, great. So we will probably move on to the next question from the community. So this is something that came up. Can you share specific traits that help you become the technology leader at BigBasket? Do you think apart from you said the decisions that you took in your life were impulsive mostly, and that's why you were able to take those risks at those point of time. But as a technology leader, I'm sure there must be some traits that you have that allowed you to be where you are.
Right. If I think about this, I think there's primarily two things. There's a lot of interest in problem solving. And I think as you actually gain a lot of experience, especially in the technical field, many times you are faced with a choice. There is always an opportunity to be focused on management, be focused on shaping teams, creating teams, etc. But personally for me, I've always found it very, very appealing to actually solve problems. Right. So when I get into the problem, I get into it in a very deep way. I try to understand how to solve a specific problem. I actually go deep into the problem and pretty hands-on. So that's one trait which I think has helped me in my journey at BigBasket. The other trait is I think when I create a team, when I actually bring in leaders at the next level, or when I hire managers or hire engineers, we try and give them a lot of space to actually solve problems on their own. So I consciously stay away from things like micromanagement or basically shaping up a person's destiny. So I think we talk about problems at a high level. We respect everybody who's part of the debate. Great ideas can come from people at all levels. Right? So these are, I think, some of the traits which actually probably help me be a combination of somebody who can contribute as well as giving engineers who are working in my team space to actually discover and nurture their own talent.
Yeah, so one thing that you mentioned was Rakshit, or maybe we lost you there for a while. Yeah, can you hear me, Rakshit? Yeah.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you guys still having difficulty?
The voice goes in for a while and comes back. Would you like? Is there something we can do at your end quickly? Is it possible?
Let me try and switch the network and see if that works. The other one works better.
Okay, sure. So we'll take a little bit of a break while Rakshit break in the sense we'll talk about what Rakshit has done so far. We'll summarize it from there. So you guys can also keep asking your questions. Whoever is watching us live, please feel free to message more questions. We'll take it up from here, and till Rakshit kind of comes back, switches his network. There has been slight trouble in the network. Sorry about that. Um, Khushbu has asked a question. We'll come to that, Khushbu. We'll address that soon.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes, Rakshit, we can hear you. I think it's slightly better. Let's see how it goes.
Okay, fingers crossed. My apologies. I'm not
No,
sure what's going on with my network.
yeah, let's hope this time it goes fine. So you said you don't do a lot of micromanagement. You don't even try and make focus too much on making people make the grow or whatever it is. It's more about solving problems. Now, how would you divide percentage ratio between tech and non-tech skills to at your level? Do you think how much amount of your time actually goes behind tech, or how much from people management for leadership? To
Sure.
Yeah. Sorry, Rakshit, I think we lost you again. Yeah, is it fine? Yeah, now we are back. Yeah, we can see you.
Okay. I think it's 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, even in the tech pieces, I think you're talking about problems at a higher level. You're actually brainstorming strategies in terms of where you want to take the tech platform to, right? And within the tech piece, I think there are certain problems that you get deeply involved into, and then there are certain pieces that you are actually involved at the architecture level, at the strategic level, right? So that's roughly the mix. In terms of people management, I think do end up spending a fair bit of time trying to talk to teams, trying to understand what kind of issues people are facing, what can we do to actually grow a team and create a culture where everybody feels happy and proud to be a part of the company, right? So that's really the mix of what I end up doing on a day-to-day basis.
So when you say that, right, a lot of this is something that I have felt a lot in my career as well. When you do this, is typically that happens in most of the organization. I'm not sure whether it happened with you also or not. So when you're good at tech, right, generally in most organizations you are made the team lead or you are made the manager.
Right.
And suddenly you see that, okay, fine, you were solving a tech problem, you were writing code which you loved doing, and now you have to deal with people. And
right.
Probably there is no formal training that goes into solving people issues. Did that happen with you as well?
So not so much. So I think in one thing that I think has always helped me is when I got into a managerial role. I've always been kind of a people person, so it's not been very hard for me to create relationships with people or actually make friends with people who even work for me, right? So that kind of, in some ways, has helped shape my managerial journey, right? The other piece of this is, especially at BigBasket and even in my role at SAP, what I've tried to do is when I hire leaders who are actually responsible for a team or multiple teams, I make sure that I try and find a combination of somebody who would be a good leader, has the right leadership traits, as well as the right technical ability. Right. So I firmly believe that anybody who actually leads a team in the technology industry should have understanding of software, should be able to hold a conversation at the deepest level, and ultimately he or she needs to be able to gain respect from the engineers that work for them, right? So so typically leadership hiring at BigBasket takes a little longer because we do wait for the right person who actually brings in a mix of both of these skills to the table.
Right. So you believe in leadership by an example rather than yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Great. Yeah, this is another question from the community. They want, what has been the best phase of your career so far?
Oh, this is a hard one to answer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think every part of my journey has been kind of very educative, and I won't exchange it for any other part. Right? When I joined the startup, like almost after school, that was quite, in retrospect, obviously, that has taken me where I am because I learned a lot of stuff about technology and software engineering in that phase of the journey. SAP was a whole different experience in terms of getting exposed to large companies, which are real multinationals, operations in 50 countries. An organization is 50, 60,000 people big. Trying to navigate those complex waters gave me a lot of understanding on how the technology world works, how the multinational companies operate. Starting my own company, obviously very, very exciting at multiple levels. A lot of learnings on what I could have done to make it more successful. And so another very enriching experience as far as my life is concerned. BigBasket was my first foray into consumer software, right? So a different kind of experience, completely fulfilling journey so far. The company is doing extremely well, and what that really means is we are solving new scaling problems day in and day out, figuring out new challenges. We are operating in a very complex supply chain kind of an environment. Absolutely. In a country like India. It's a very, very exciting time to actually be solving problems that have probably not been solved before in the Indian ecosystem. Yeah. So, like I said, hard question to answer, and I can't give you a specific answer. So it's, but it's been it's been a lot of fun, and it's been a fantastic journey.
But you dodged the answer.
Yeah, I know. If I had to pick one, maybe doing my own company. Really, I think that was ultimately that was the time I was the poorest. I did not make too much money, but in terms of learning, creating something of your own, trying to sell it, find customers, it's been very fulfilling.
I'm sure. I think the experience of that makes you rich, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So we'll come to that. We'll come to that in details a bit later. But yeah, as a CTO of Big Basket, right? You said you are solving a lot of interesting problems, especially in the way you are managing the supply chain, especially hiring from, buying stuff directly from the farmers and selling it directly to the customers, right? There are a lot of things that happen in between. It was a very simple thing for me to say that, okay, you are buying from here, selling it here, right? But I'm sure there are a lot of interesting stuff. Anything that you can probably explain in terms of layman, right? There are a lot of freshers probably or college-going students who are watching this webinar, right? So maybe you can lay some insights into the kind of problems that you're solving and what kind of skills are required to solve them.
Sure. So I think a lot of the problems can be solved using some of your core algorithmic principles, some of your core mathematical learnings that you've gone through at school or engineering college or in your past job. But ultimately, I think if I were to say a couple of things that a company like BigBasket needs to solve for is when you are operating at scale, where the number of customers on your platform could vary hugely based on the time of the month, based on the time of the day, etc. How do you create a distributed infrastructure to actually address the core scaling sort of issues without paying a ton of money, right? What are the technology choices you make? What are the infrastructure pieces that you invest in? So that's one piece of the journey that you always have to be on top of. The other part of the journey, obviously, is making sure that whatever you do doesn't compromise on security. There's always a lot of pressure to do a lot of things very quickly. There's enough problems that need to be solved, right?
Yeah.
You always have to walk a fine line between the resources available and the problems that you want to solve. So choosing the right set of problems, making sure that everything that you choose is going to deliver an impact to customers, deliver an impact to operations, right? Make sure that you do a thorough analysis of what you are trying to build and why you are trying to build. So we go through a journey called the why, what, and how.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, like every organization, which is probably our size, there's probably a list of few hundred things you could be doing at any point in time. So, one of the most important things that you have to answer is, why do I pick a certain problem over another one?
Mm-hmm.
So, we try and go through a very, very objective exercise. The person who proposes that this problem needs to be tackled or this needs to be solved needs to very objectively quantify why we are going to solve this problem, right? And only if the metrics make sense, are there measurable metrics, then we go to the next round of discussion. And when we say, what's next? So we say, this is the what, this is how we are going to solve it. There's a lot of back and forth discussion between the product team, between the tech team, between the business units to kind of come to a concrete what. Only after the what is settled.
I'm tempted to ask here, Rakshit, sorry to interrupt you.
Sure.
Whose side do you take?
Whose side do I take? I think I won't say I take sides. I think I have to be convinced personally about the why and the what of the problem. Right? I think the why is the most important piece. And that's where a lot of sharp questions come about. Not only from me, right? It could be from the product team. It could be from the business team. It could be from the founders of BigBasket, right? All of us try to question very incisively why we are taking certain problem. Is the ROI kind of adding up? Is the effort that we are going to put in likely to see a return that is worth the effort that we are going to make? Right? So, very important to be convinced about that. So, and at times, I would say, totally go with what the BU is saying. At times, you have to learn the fine art of saying no, right? You have to try and convey why you are not convinced about going down a certain path, etc. Yeah. There's a lot of debate, and if you manage to create an environment where you have debate where everybody can equally participate, and once a decision is made, everybody goes home happy. Yeah. That's really the outcome we want, right? Nurture an environment of healthy debate and make a decision quickly and then execute on it in a full-fledged way.
True. Do you still code or do code reviews or anything closer to looking at the code?
I code once in a while when I'm passionate. Yeah, I do. When I'm passionate about a certain problem, I try and find time to actually write some code, experiment, and see if there is something that can be done here. I don't put myself in official release-related activities, right? Because usually I'm pulled into different things. So
I'm sure. Yeah.
I fortunately or unfortunately have the luxury of picking what problems I want to chase and then try and tackle those on the weekend or on the side. And if I am able to take them to a certain outcome, that's when I kind of share it with the team and then see how we can make it part of the mainstream.
That's very interesting. So coming to the again a little bit of journey, right? So now, because since we are talking about BigBasket, so your journey from SAP to BigBasket, right? The difference there, because SAP again was a much larger organization, probably in terms of the number of employees, the processes, the culture. How do you handle this this difference? Is the difference too much, or is it like now not too much?
It's every company has its own unique culture.
Sure.
Right? And at SAP, where there's about 50-60 geographies involved, 50-60 countries involved, the culture is very hard to objectify or kind of define.
True.
Right? So there, I think the problem statement is, how do you create an environment of work within your group of people, right? If you're working closely with 2 teams or 4 teams, or if you are working on a specific product, what can you do to achieve the goals for that specific team? That's really the defining factor in terms of culture. Uh, at a place like BigBasket, where we are defining the culture for the whole company, right? The company is actually growing from over the last few years. We have probably quadrupled in size, right? It's very, very important to pay attention to what you think is going to be the culture of the company. How do you make sure you sort of respect the ideals of transparency, empowerment, right? Making sure everybody who joins the company feels that he or she can contribute to actually solving problems. It's not a very top-down kind of an environment, right? I definitely would not like to run a team where I basically tell everybody what to do, how to do, when to do it.
Yeah,
I think the idea is you present a problem and let people kind of come up with interesting solutions. Let people discover their own journey.
Yeah.
Right. And you try to set up an environment where you facilitate that this can happen very quickly.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
Yeah. I think that goes a long way in terms of empowering people, giving them that sense of ownership. We
Right.
have a question from Parikshit from the chat. He says something that you have already did, something that you did in your time when you graduated out. For graduate students, do you recommend joining big companies or startups? What would you recommend?
I think, there are different considerations. Obviously, all things equal, if you, for example, are getting the same amount of money from a startup as well as a large company, and money is clearly a consideration when you are looking for a job, etc. I would say joining a startup will get you to learn much, much more. Right? You will discover and learn things much faster than you would probably learn at a larger company. Right? Because in a larger company, you will typically end up joining a team which is responsible for a component in the overall scheme of things. When you join a startup, the breadth of problems that you can attack is going to be much higher. So personally, based on my experiences, all things being equal, say you have a job offer from a startup as well as a large company, I think I would recommend join a startup. Right. That being said, there are other things to think about as well. There's obviously a high risk, high reward sort of a situation.
Yeah.
So it's a personal choice that everybody needs to make based on their personal situation, right? How important is stability in your life?
Yeah.
Are you willing to take some more risk, etc.? But in terms of absolute learning, I think startups will.
So I think that's a clear answer there from Rakshit to the new people, to all the graduates out there or who are going to graduate in the coming years. Join a startup. At least you will be very enriched in the learning part of it. If you can, take the stability hit. If you're not too bothered about the stability, I think startup is a way to go. One quick question on the challenges. Sorry, Rakshit.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah. So one quick question on the on being the CTO of Big Basket, right? How do you manage your time? How do you organize your day? Do you have like some kind of a tracker or some tips that you would like to give to people?
So usually a calendar, the calendar is my friend and enemy.
Okay.
Right. So the calendar does get filled up pretty quickly. I try and give time to everybody who requests time. And once in a while, if I, for example, somebody has requested a meeting, and I think this discussion can be had over email, I try and wrap it up over email. The other thing I think which we don't do enough, and which I like to do, is if there is a question, instead of writing a long email, I pick up the phone and just call the person. Right? And if, for example, a discussion needs multiple people, try and close things very, very quickly. Right? Do not end a meeting without a very clear idea of what you meant. for and what you have achieved, right? So take that extra minute to summarize where we are, what we are going to do next. So some of those things, in terms of managing my time, try to there are certain recurring meetings that I save my time for, and then there is a bunch of time that I leave for ad hoc discussions or for project reviews or for brainstorming sessions, right? So depending on where we are in the journey, there's a constant mix of these things going on.
So one thing that clearly came out was avoid synchronous meeting as much as you can. But if it is going to be a long discussion, then don't take it on the email, call up and talk to people.
Yeah.
I
think I'm not a big fan of long-winded email discussions.
Yeah.
So whenever so once in a while a thread starts that I think's gone on too long.
Yeah.
I think I take the I take the opportunity to actually call up all the people on the thread and come to a resolution very, very quickly.
Great. Yeah, I think that's very useful for me as well, and a lot of professionals out there, in terms of how to manage time. Especially when you start growing up the ladder, there are so many people wanting your time, and how to do that.
Right.
So let's move on to the next one. Coming to your entrepreneurial journey, right? As you also mentioned that was a small part of your life, but you were very, very probably the best phase of your career, right? I'm sure there is a lot of lessons that we learn as entrepreneurs, whether we are able to successfully get something out of it or not. I think the journey itself is massive. There is a huge amount of learning out there. I'm sure you may have also learned a lot there. So, right, would you like to share some lessons that you learned from that?
Sure. I think lots of lessons. I think one lesson that stands out for me is don't commit to the idea too early.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What I mean when I say that is somewhere, for example, in my journey, we decided that this is what we were going to build, and actually tried to sell what we thought was a very good idea, right? And then during the course of the journey, we said, okay, this is not working as well as we would have liked to. So then we pivoted, right? So I think what ended up happening specifically for us is somewhere I think we committed to the idea kind of early, right? And then we had to pivot multiple times. And the big lesson that we learned is longevity is important, right? The first year is full of energy, second year is full of energy. At some point, you will start thinking about what could have been. Did I make the right choice? When you're a group of founders, everybody obviously has different pressures in terms of how long you can go on without actually making substantial amounts of money that you're used to, and so on.
Yeah.
So all that. So making sure that you actually have those things covered while you are thinking through an entrepreneurial journey is fairly important. Making sure that you have really thought through deeply about what you want to do, what is the problem you want to solve. And once you have clarity on that, go attack it with full energy and full vigor. But don't jump to conclusions around what you want to do. So I think that would be my big lesson from my stint.
I think one thing that you mentioned is very interesting and very true, right? Don't commit to an idea early. Now, how difficult it is actually to, once you commit to the idea, you get emotionally connected to the idea as a founder, right? It's your idea, your baby. How difficult it is to not be emotionally connected, or how important it is, forget about difficult, how important it is. Should you be emotionally connected? Because if you are not, then probably you are not fully into it, and if you are, then you don't know when to pivot or when to get out. So how do you decide, and what do you?
Yeah, so that's exactly the point, right? Clearly, you have to be emotionally connected and passionate about the idea. Unless you have that passion, you're not going to do a great job of building what you think will change the world, right? But the point I'm making is, before getting into the deep emotional connect, do your homework.
Yes.
Right? Make sure you have all the bases covered in terms of uh, identifying the market fit. Are your potential customers ready for this idea? Take advice from different people. Talk to as many people as you can. Clearly, you are privy to some parts of the problem. Make sure your worldview is not limited to just what you started off thinking, right? So if and when I do this again, these are some of the learnings that I'll try and execute on.
Yeah, that also brings me to this point, right? That you would, as you mentioned also earlier, I was anyway about to ask you, but you had already mentioned at some point in time you would like to probably be an entrepreneur again, right? So
Yep.
do you already? You said you don't have an idea right now. You have not thought through it, but
So I think the other thing which I'll mention about as far as entrepreneurship is concerned is ideas are overrated, right? I think all of us who are engineers or people who are thinkers can come up with 5 ideas in the course of 15 minutes if we just sit down and started writing down our thoughts and ideas, right? I think it's the execution, your ability to bring together a group of different people, your ability to actually convince customers that what you're doing is worthwhile, is really where the meat of the startup journey is, right? So I'm sure if when I'm ready to make this journey again, ideas won't be a problem, right? We'll find an idea, we'll think through it, we'll take our learnings from the last journey, we'll make sure that we do better homework, etc. But I think the one thing that I would want to tackle and I would want to crack is how do I undergo the right execution journey, right? There's no easy answers there.
Yeah.
Every journey is unique in itself, and people will discover it when they're actually going through that. But personally, for me, that's going to be the big challenge when I do this again, right? And in some ways, like my work at BigBasket is actually also helping or shaping me up for this journey in the future, right? I've been through multiple startups of different natures. BigBasket is at a stage where we could potentially call it a successful startup.
Yes, definitely.
Right? So, so I know now what works, what doesn't work, what are some of the things that you should do, some of the things that you should avoid. Hopefully, some of it has registered in my subconscious, and when I do this again, will take a lot of learning from that.
I'm sure. I think those are the words of wisdom, right? Those are golden words. Ideas are overrated. Execution matters, and a lot of people out there who want to do your own startup. I think this is extremely important for us to know. Ideas don't take much time to come, and probably you can take up an idea which exists. A lot of times we also keep waiting for ideas to happen. I think it's important for us to plan the execution, do the homework. Doing the homework is the second thing that I think I can take out from what Rakshit said. These are golden words, and we should all note them down in your diary. All the startup entrepreneurs, future entrepreneurs in our country. Parikshit also has a subsequent question. I'm not sure if it's it can be answered well or not, but yeah, it's here. You can take a dig, Rakshit. Can you share some tips on how to meet investors and get an investment?
Sure. So how to meet investors? Believe it or not, investors are very keen to meet entrepreneurs. Right? Meeting investors is not so hard. Right? Getting an investment obviously depends on what you bring to the table. And I think in my journey of talking to investors multiple times over the many years, I think the one thing that stands out again and again is the conviction that the team that is actually doing the startup, is this the team, the right team to solve this specific problem? I think if you crack that, you will probably get funding for your specific idea, right? I think the team is the most important component in terms of actually convincing investors that you have a potentially good outcome.
That's again a very, very, very interesting point, and I think this is something that I have met so many my friends have started their startups, and I think this is the bottom line: get a good
Right.
team, sell your idea to good people, and bring them on your team before you meet an investor. I think that's more important than the idea. That's
Absolutely.
yeah. Great, Rakshit. I think there is a lot to take away from this session. Do we have a hard stop at 9, or can we extend it a little bit more? Maybe 15, 20 minutes more if you have time?
I can do
Okay,
15 minutes,
great,
not a problem.
great. So now the more relevant questions to the to the community who want to get hired, right? All the people in the community are budding engineers or budding software engineers who are solving data structures algorithms problems every single day, and who are learning a lot of you can say problem solving, right? And they are taking part in competitions every month. So that's what they are saying. First, what can a software development engineer expect at their role in Big Basket? Is it like
Uh,
okay? Yeah, I'll give it to you.
Sure. So, software development engineer at BigBasket can expect to be exposed to some of the most interesting consumer-facing problems, right? Both in e-commerce as well as on the supply chain side,
Mm-hmm.
right? And some of this, like I mentioned before, is happening at a scale that has not happened in our country before, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are Big Basket is at the forefront of this in terms of uh, discovering new pieces of the puzzle that need to be cracked day in and day out, right? And getting exposed to this is one part of the journey from a purely product as well as what needs to be done standpoint. In terms of technology, you are looking at a distributed platform with millions of events being processed in a minute. Right, you're looking at technology stacks which are both synchronous as well as asynchronous. We are so to give you an example, we run Python, we run Java Vertex, we run Java Spring Boot, we run Node.js, we run Golang, right? So an opportunity to expose to all kinds of technology stacks. We obviously have an app uh, platform both for iOS as well as Android, right? So opportunity to work in some of these technologies which are quite cutting edge, and an opportunity to solve some deep challenging problems which have not been tackled before in the country. I think those are the two things I would say SDE can expect at the role at BigBasket.
Okay. So, are you hiring? That's one one question is very important.
Yes, we are hiring.
Huh?
We are hiring. I would say not very aggressively. In fact, that's been our philosophy. We've always been conservative in terms of how we grow the organization, right? But that being said, we are hiring. There are a few positions that are open. I think anybody who's interested can reach out to me on LinkedIn, reach out to one of our recruiters. I think there is an email address as well called tech-jobs@bigbasket.com. Would love to look at resumes of talented folks and see if there can be a fit at BigBasket.
Yeah, tech-jobs at bigbasket.com. That's an email address that our students, viewers need to remember. They can note it down if you want to earn a job at Big Basket. If you want to solve problems at scale, then it's a great company to work at, and you are hearing it from the horse's mouth. So Rakshit is here answering your doubts. So please feel free to ask your questions. Rakshit, what do you expect actually? What kind of qualities do you expect from a software development engineer when you look to hire?
I think two primary things, right? One is a love for problem solving.
Love for problem
Second,
solving, yeah.
And second is a willingness to roll up your sleeves and do what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think what I try and create in my team is a group of people who are actually who actually want to take ownership of every outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It should not be a situation where this is not my job, this is not what I was hired for.
Mm-hmm.
Feel like it's your own company. That's the thing I keep telling folks in my team. Let's solve it like we are doing it for our own company.
Yeah.
The first question you should ask yourself is, if it was my company, would I do this or not?
Absolutely.
And if the answer is yes, let's roll up our sleeves, do whatever it takes to get the outcome that we want.
So problem-solving skills and sense of ownership is something that that I think Rakshit values tremendously. The Big Basket values tremendously. There is a question. Can we get internship at Big Basket? Do you offer also internships? Are you like?
We do. So we usually hire 15, 20 interns every year.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So absolutely.
Sure.
We do work with we usually work with a set of colleges there, but happy to see if there's other talent that we can onboard.
Yeah.
So please feel free to reach out at the same email.
Yeah, tech-jobs@bigbasket.com.
Right.
Yeah. There is a slightly different question. Maybe we will take that since it is asked, which is more of from a professional point of view. Any word of advice for Hiral asked this question. Any word of advice for business managers wanting to transition to product management roles?
The advice I would give is, I don't think it's a very hard transition if you're actually worked in an environment. Did she say Hiral is a she? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Did she say business managers or technology managers?
Business managers to product management roles. Yeah.
Business management to product management.
Yeah.
I think the most important advice I would give is become aware of technology and the problems technology can solve for you. Right. So I think. Especially in an organization like ours, the more capable you are understanding of how the problem is going to be solved, the more you understand what the technological intricacies of a certain problem are, the better you are able to actually have a deeper discussion on the topic. Right? So if you don't have a tech background, I think I would say read a lot. Take some courses in trying to understand what it takes to actually create an e-commerce platform. What does it mean in the modern technological environment to actually run a infrastructure like this? Get some understanding of that, and I think that will actually equip you to have a much more informed and more intelligent conversation with the tech teams that will finally be executing your ideas.
Understanding technology, I think, will be the key here.
Right.
So yeah. So getting a grip on technology will be great. So coming back to the hiring and career related questions at Big Basket, right? Here we already discussed about the skills that you expect the software engineers to have. Did the hiring at Big Basket take any hit due to the COVID situation? Did you stop hiring or do you go to campuses to hire as well?
We go to campuses to hire. We work with a set of colleges. I think had success in hiring from few colleges year after year. So that's kind of become our favorite hunting grounds.
So a lot of students here actually say that since also CodeChef is trying to create a level playing ground. Because what happens is most of the big tech companies, they go to the IITs and the NITs to hire generally, right? Whereas we believe that problem-solving skills exist everywhere. It's just a matter of opportunity whether a student actually got to get into some kind of an college or not. So in CodeChef, we conduct programming competitions every month, which actually test the skills, problem-solving and data structure skills, right? So what do you suggest a tier 3 college student to get hired to your company? Is there a...
I think one thing we are guilty of not doing as much as what we should be doing is actually using something which is a mechanism which allows students from all over the country to participate equally in and kind of see if we can find talent from there. So that's one learning that I'll be taking away today, and hopefully we can.
CodeChef can help you there. If my business development team is listening to this,
Sure.
maybe they can get in touch
Absolutely.
with you. Yeah.
Would love to engage further and see how we can help do this. I completely agree that there's enough talent in all kinds of colleges in our country, and we have taken the route of actually going to specific colleges, but I don't see any reason why we can't actually open it up for talent across the country, across different schools.
That would be great. Absolutely. Yeah. It will create more level playing ground in the country. That's something that we are trying to achieve as well.
So, absolutely.
Have you like when you hire people, right? Do you look at, you said you look at problem solving skills, but do you also look at competitive programming? Is your first round like based on DSA, or competitive programming is basically which involves competitions where you have a lot of DSA related problems? So do you look at that, and do you think this is something which is useful for building scalable e-commerce products? You did mention about data structures algorithms in your first introduction part, your journey part, right? How big a role they play at?
Yeah, so we specifically haven't done competitive programming based hiring so far, right? But I definitely think it's a great way to find talent and a great way to potentially hire. And that's something that I would love to look into and see what we can do to go down that path. That being said, clearly when we hire at colleges and campuses, we do take a test, right, which is a combination of aptitude test as well as some of your DSA concepts and so on, right? Not necessarily in the competitive programming space. It's much more of a objective sort of question and answers. But once a student does well in these basic tests and preliminary rounds, we then actually have one-on-one interviews where we go through the whole DSA journey, right? And make sure that anybody who comes on board has a thorough understanding. So competitive programming is definitely another thing that I would love to explore as far as hiring in BigBasket is concerned.
Great. That's good for CodeChef and its users. But a lot of people actually ask this question a lot. To me as well, I have gone to so many colleges in the country. Should we do DSA competitive programming, or should we do open source software development? Is there a versus, right? How does DSA actually help in building scalable solutions? Do you think that it plays a part? Why do companies emphasize so much on this one subject when they hire?
I think DSA clearly helps in multiple ways. One, it helps you test for clarity of thought, right? If I were to like pick one quality in a software engineer, right? How clear you are about what you want to do, how elegantly you are able to do it, right? Like I go back to my math background and some of the principles. The most joy you get out of solving a problem is when you are able to find an elegant solution.
Yeah.
And that's something that's very, very true for computer science as well.
True.
Right?
True.
So the elegance of thought is a very hard skill, right? And I think something like a competitive programming environment helps you actually find that.
Yeah.
Right? And some of these things may or may not be captured in an interview, right? And we do discover over time who actually is the guy who's brings in special qualities in terms of elegance of thought, etc. But if there was a way to find this early on in the journey, then I think filtering for talent becomes that much more powerful and that much more accurate.
Yeah. So I think we've come to almost an end of it. The last question is something that we already asked you. Would you recommend a startup versus a multinational technology giant? So the answer is a startup. So we'll probably not take that question. I also want to let you know a little bit of interesting discussion that is happening on our chat. So there are young kids in school who have now come to know about something called IOI. So the IOI is the International Olympiads for Informatics. This is something that we discovered only in 2014, 13 and
Right.
14. It is an Olympiad in programming that has been happening at the school level, but unfortunately in India nobody knows about it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like you mentioned, right, that you did prepare for the International Mathematics Olympiad and you were shortlisted for the nationals. Yeah, right. So similarly, we also have a programming Olympiad that has been happening since last 30 years now, conducted by the UNESCO
Right.
at the same level as IMO, but unfortunately in India nobody knows about it. So it has been CodeChef's endeavor to also actually raise awareness for IOI at the school level, and we have been doing our bit. So school kids are coming and saying how they can prepare. So there are people who are answering. So I just wanted to probably let you know about something
Sure.
like this. And yeah, this is something that we have been promoting a lot. So maybe we can.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fantastic way to actually get kids started,
Mhm.
right? Uh, uh, Nothing
Yeah.
excites you or gets the adrenaline going as much as a nice competition.
Yeah.
It also appeals to your problem solving instinct. So I think absolutely Olympiads are a great way to actually get school kids interested in this journey. And I think you guys are doing a great job in terms of trying to uh, make this mainstream. So all the best to you and full power to you.
Thank you so much. And I think that's kind of all. We have arrived at the end of this session. We have. I want to thank Rakshit a lot. I think it was a massive wisdom, a lot of good, insightful answers which have been given. Let me just quickly check with the team. Are there any more questions that we should take? No, I think all done, right? So we are good there. Thanks a lot, Rakshit. It has been a pleasure talking to you, and thanks a lot for spending so much amount of time with the community and us.
Thank you, Anup. It was a pleasure. Happy to have contributed or shared some parts of my journey. Lovely talking to all of you.
Same here. Thanks a lot, Rakshit. Thanks everyone in the
Thank you.
community.
And my apologies for the connectivity
Not at all. I
issues
think the
early on.
second half went very, very well. So thanks for that. I think it went very well. The audience is also kind of thanking for the amazing session.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Thanks.
Great. Yeah. Bye, everyone. Yeah.